she ever wanted to grow up to be was a missionary. Belle smiled as she thought back to the time in Vancouver when, as a 14-year-old, she first realized that missionary life was definitely not for her. Chapter 2. An Agnostic. It was 1915, and 14-year-old Isobel Miller stood on the dock, her long brown hair streaming in the wind. It was a typical summer's day in Vancouver, British Columbia, and she was glad that she had brought a light jacket. She was at the dock to say farewell to two missionaries, Dr. and Mrs. Isaac Page, who were returning across the vast Pacific Ocean to continue their work in China. The Pages were by no means the only missionaries that Isobel had waved goodbye to in the 3 years she had lived on the west coast of Canada. Her father, Samuel Miller, was involved in lay preaching, and her mother, Alice, was the president of the Women's Missionary Society of the Presbyterian Church in Canada. As a result, missionaries often stayed in the Miller house, either coming from or going to the mission field. It had once seemed exciting and dramatic to listen to the stories the missionaries told, and to touch the woven baskets and headscarves they presented to her mother as thank-you gifts. But now, Belle found it all a little tiresome. She wondered what really motivated people to give up their home and so much more and venture across the world to a life of hardship, danger, deprivation, and sometimes even death. Finally, the deep groan of the ship's horn, the sign for the remaining passengers to get on board for departure, broke into Belle's thoughts. Then she felt Dr. Page's hand pat her shoulder. "Isobel," he said, beaming down at her, "I am going to pray that God will send you to China as a missionary." Belle's heart dropped as she concealed her surprise. "You mean thing! I have no intention of going anywhere as a missionary," she wanted to reply, but she kept her thoughts to herself. Belle found it was easier that way. Her whole family was much too religious for her liking. Her grandfather Miller had been a Presbyterian minister and opened a home for seamen's widows and orphans in England before immigrating with his young family to eastern Canada. Her parents were always doing something with the Presbyterian Church or some other group of do-gooders. Until recently, both Belle and her older brother Murray had to accompany their parents to the Rescue Mission Hall in the slums of Vancouver, where their father would preach to the tenants and their mother would play the piano while Belle and Murray sang gospel songs. The family outreaches had stopped now that Murray, 3 years older than Belle, was preparing to ship out with the Canadian Expeditionary Force to fight alongside British and French soldiers against the Germans in the Great War in Europe. Alice Miller had now turned her attention to making Belle a socially fit young woman. It had surprised Belle when her mother signed her up for speech classes and dancing lessons, but Belle didn't complain. They were much more fun than singing gospel songs at the rescue mission, and for whatever reason, her mother thought that it was the next step for Belle. At home, later that night, Belle tried to pray. She had been used to praying most nights before she went to bed, but this night, no prayer came to her mind. She thought of Dr. and Mrs. Page on the ship. They were both probably thoroughly seasick by now, and she wondered why they made so much effort to go overseas as missionaries. What difference did it really make whether a bunch of Chinese peasants in some unpronounceable village heard about Jesus? This was a question that Belle did not think about much after that. Life for her was simply too busy with other things. Her brother Murray finally left to fight on the battlefront in France. Belle could tell that it nearly broke her mother's heart to say goodbye to Murray. After Murray had left, her father told Belle something she had